What's up, Buckeye Nation? Flowco here. Ohio State football with Scarlet and Great right here on YouTube. Coming off of a huge game, guys. 63-10. The Buckeyes win big against Western Kentucky. And I know what you're saying. It's just Western Kentucky. But the fact of the matter is, Ohio State has not played up to par this year so far, at least in the eyes of the fans, which, depending on who you ask. Okay, just depending on who you ask. The fan base has been pretty divided and pretty toxic right now. But the thing that you can take from this game is this: Ohio State did exactly what they were supposed to do against an inferior opponent. And there's also reason to be optimistic going forward based on what this game's shown. Maybe not so much on the offensive side of the ball, even though the offense did shine, but the defensive side of the ball, we knew would they be tested, and we can say they definitively passed the test. If you think they didn't, I don't know what to tell you. This is what frustrates me with talking with some of the fans on Twitter is there's times where you say, "Hey, look, they're doing what they're supposed to do," and it's never enough. It's Western Kentucky. Okay, well, that's great and all, but when they struggle, you're on them, and when they don't struggle, you discount what they're doing. There's no win with you, and I get a little tired of it with at least 20% of the fan base or so. They're a loud minority of the fan base. I know most of you in Buckeye Nation are smart enough to enjoy the win, take it for what it's worth. It's a grain of salt win because it is an inferior program, even though they're not a terrible team. They're actually a pretty decent Conference USA team and have one of the most prolific passing attacks in all the country. But take the win and enjoy it, and enjoy the fact that Buckeyes did what you expect them to do. Those are the times we can actually look at the Ohio State Buckeyes and say, okay, look, you're growing into the team we think you can be. And this was a step forward. And Ryan Day even said, I think, something to the effect of you're going to see this team take a big step, and they absolutely, indisputably did take a big step. Now, obviously, the big test coming up this week with Notre Dame. We'll talk about that later in the week. But right now, I want to talk about this game a little bit. Let's talk about Kyle McCord first of all. I'm going to put the stats here on the ticker on the bottom. You can check them out as it rolls around. Kyle McCord, look, I'll be honest. Western Kentucky's defense is not that good. We know that. But what we need to see from Kyle McCord are good mechanics, decisive delivery, making good decisions, and doing what he's supposed to do against a bad defense with all the plethora of weapons he has. And he did that. He had a couple down moments. I know because people were texting me, telling me how terrible he is, even early on in the game. And then all of a sudden, I stopped getting texts as the game went on. Kyle McCord ultimately finished 19 to 23, 318 yards, 3 touchdowns, QBR of 95. Had a great game. I think his shining moment, it really opened up for him when he threw the 75-yarder to Marvin Harrison, who was wide open, yes, but that's still a hard throw to make. And especially he made it on time. It wasn't like Marvin Harrison had to stop and wait for the ball. As we've seen in the past, even with our good quarterbacks, where people just have to say, oh, hold on, the ball's coming. You threw it too late. Because it seems like all the time in the past, I noticed even with Dwayne, with Justin, even a couple times with CJ, even though CJ had one of the most beautiful deep balls I've ever seen, it seemed like our quarterbacks are always a little hesitant to throw that deep ball. Kyle has shown hesitancy this year a little bit. That ball was perfect. Harrison didn't have to slow up, didn't have to stop. He just ran right underneath it, grabbed it, easy touchdown. Well, easy. They made it look easy anyway. I don't know what the corner and the safety were thinking there. They were staying level with him, and it's like if you know the saying, if he's even, he's leaving. I mean, it's Harrison. This dude's a 4'3" guy. He's 6'4". Maybe you want to think about getting deep on him or having a overhang safety or whatever. I don't know. A single high safety, I'm the phrase I'm looking for. I don't know what they were doing defensively there, but it didn't work, obviously, and Kyle McCord made a decisive play, made a great throw. Mayor Harrison, great catch and run, touchdown. And it seemed like from there on, Kyle McCord seemed to open it up. It just made it look easy at times. And I think the moment that was most impressive with him is that last 35 to 40-second drive to get a touchdown last before the half. And I say that because the first play, I think he scrambled for a few yards. He just took what he could get and took a few yards. I think the or not the coverage, but the protection broke down, and he just took off and ran and got a little bit out of it. That I've heard so many quarterbacks and coaches in football always say you need that first play to be positive, because if it's negative, he takes a sack or anything like that, it just derails the entirety of the drive. Obviously, you're trying to regroup real quick. Time's running. You might have to waste a timeout, whatever it is. But getting positive yards on that first drive keeps you keeps you ahead of the schedule. Okay, it's like, all right. Didn't get what we wanted there, but it didn't kill us either, and he got out of bounds. And then, of course, he just, manufactured an excellent drive, a big play to Cade Stover, obviously in the bootleg, or I think I don't know, it was a crossing pattern. I apologize. I think that was what it was. Made just beautiful throw after beautiful throw. His mechanics were good. His footwork was good. The throw to Emeka Ibuka in the corner of the end zone is not an easy throw. Emeka abused his guy, toasted him, and then it's just our receivers had their way with their corners all game, it seemed. But the key is Kyle was delivering the goods, as you would expect an Ohio State Ryan Day quarterback to do. Took that next step. I think he seems to be more authoritative and more confident in what he's doing. You have to be, I'm sorry, you have to be encouraged by what you saw. I know it's not a good defense, but you have to be encouraged by what you saw. Think about this, guys. We're going into Notre Dame. They're going to be indisputably a tougher team to play. A good defense, a good, well-coached team in South Bend. How would you feel? Because I'm talking to the toxic fans right now. How would you feel if Kyle McCord struggled this game going into that game? Would you say, oh, geez, I don't know. I mean, I'd be right there with you saying, I don't know about this kid. If we're going into Notre Dame and he's struggling against Western Kentucky, he did what he was supposed to do and he torched them and he tore them apart. Don't you feel, even if you're a bit of a pessimist, don't you feel a little bit more confident in Kyle going forward now in the Notre Dame? This is what I get from fans on Twitter. Yeah, he looked good, but I need to see it again. I don't care what you need to see it. We will see it eventually, what he'll do. But tell me how you feel right now based on his play. He's progressively gotten better at every game, and Western Kentucky is, to me, the best overall team we've played. Now, best defense, no, that's probably Indiana, but the best overall team we've played. And he didn't look great against Indiana. He looked extremely average against Indiana. Then he looked a little better and I'd say he got better. He looked good, not great against Youngstown State. This game, he looked great. Again, bad defense, but you have to be encouraged by what you saw, I would think, going forward. He's progressively getting better. And I think being named the starter, the assured starter for the rest of the season, just gave him a little bit of confidence to go forward and take more risk and attack downfield. Be interesting to see what he does against Notre Dame, because what I'm seeing from a young Kyle McCord right now is a guy who will take the check downs when it's there, but he also will challenge the secondary deep on the deep ball or the mid-range ball, and he played well. And then his mid-range ball against Western Kentucky was on point. It was excellent. I think at one point he was like 100% completion rating over 15 yards. It was ridiculous. So, in my opinion, I'm not saying this means he's in the Heisman race or we're natty or now it's all of a sudden we're going to the natty. I'm just saying be encouraged by what you see. You can be cautiously optimistic by what you're seeing. It's okay, I promise you. Now, obviously, in 6 days' time, we'll see what happens against Notre Dame. Going to be a great game. Going to be a big-time defense he's playing. But be encouraged by going forward by what you see. Now, another aspect of it is the run game picking it up. I'll tell you, TreVeyon Henderson looks even, dare I say, as good as he did as a freshman. I mean, he's not quite getting the reps because we have such a deep running back room, but our running game is looking better and better. And the stretch boundary actually worked this week. We've been complaining about that for, gosh, I don't know how long we've been complaining about that. And rightfully so, it never seems to work. I honestly, this is sacrilege. I know you're going to hate me for this. There is one area where Zach Smith coached his receivers better than Brian Hartline, in my opinion. I could be wrong. You comment below, tell me how wrong I am, and that's in blocking. Hartline has his receivers tearing it up in every other facet of the game, but our receivers since Zach has been gone have not been great perimeter blockers. Maybe that's just a style receiver we have. Maybe that's just not teaching it correctly. I don't know what the answer to that is. I just know it hasn't been there. Julian Fleming, however, took me back to Austin Mack and Evan Spencer, just crushing fools on the perimeter there, taking them back 5 and 10, 15 yards, allowing Henderson to have that patience to find the hole and find the gap and get to the outside. He's got the speed to do it. But how many times have we seen Trevin Henderson just race out there with not even sure what's developing yet? He just races out there. I even saw Henderson cut it up north on the field a little bit a few times. I mean, he went more north and south than he usually does. Now, he still has a habit of dancing a little bit too much at times, but he's getting better and better and better at visualizing where he needs to go and find the gap, find the hole, cutting between the tackles or going on the outside. Scored twice on the boundary run. Just excellent blocking on the outside there. And you start to wonder, is the running game coming alive? Is it picking up? Because Chip Trayanum, I mean, he only had 2 carries, but he averaged 11 yards per carry. Had a huge touchdown run, obviously. He's a nice change of pace to TreVeyon Henderson, who clearly is separating himself as the number 1 running back. Because I remember going into this season, you're just wondering who's going to get the most carries. You got to think it's a 50-50 split between TreVeyon and Miyan. Miyan looks like he's fallen on depth chart a little bit. We'll see what happens. Maybe it's just a style game based on who we're playing. I think we're going to need Miyan going forward. We're going to need them all going forward. And I love the fact that they're all 3 big, fast guys. I mean, Miyan maybe not be the speedster these other guys are, but Chip's pretty fast. And TreVeyon obviously is pretty fast. Miyan's more of a power back, and that's fine. Need him at the goal line, especially. That's where he comes in really handy. Actually, and Miyan's actually surprisingly a pretty solid receiver out of the backfield too. So he honestly he's we're gonna need him going forward. But I mean, it's like you got 3. I think those 3 have separated themselves as the guys. TreVeyon being RB1, obviously. You have 3 very capable guys you can count on. It's just up to the offensive line to stay consistent. They look the best they've looked all year so far. But again, grain of salt, it is Western Kentucky. Their defense is not good. Notre Dame, much bigger challenge. That's where my concern is as we talk about that game going forward. We'll see how it goes, but Henderson has looked really nice this year so far. Had a really nice game against Western Kentucky. 13 carries, 88 yards, 2 touchdowns, 21 yards long. Really, really, really happy with how he looks physically. He looks healed. He looks like he's gaining confidence back in that Achilles. So, I mean, going forward, I'm glad we're staying healthy too, and I think the rotation we have with the depth we have is going to keep us healthy going forward. Please let it keep us happy or keep us healthy, because last year it just seemed everybody was banged up, and it just not even just banged up, just severely injured, and we just couldn't catch a break on that in that regard. Finally, I want to talk about the defense for a second. Defense. Now, this is where the story is of this game. Western Kentucky has one of the most prolific passing attacks in the country. I mean, yeah, they're a Conference USA team. I get it. Austin Reed's thrown for something like stupid, like 5,300 yards last 20 games or something ridiculous like that. He would led the nation in passing yards last year. They have a really good passing game. This defense held this team to 284 total yards through the game. And honestly, one of those drives where they allowed 10 points, one of those drives, a field goal, mainly came off of a Kyle McCord turnover when he fumbled the ball, and another driver that got the touchdown. We had a chance to recover a fumble, just didn't do it. I mean, you could have feasibly said they might have shut him out. But 10 points to this team is really respectable. And most of us were figuring that they were going to score between 20 and 28 points on Ohio State. And I saw a lot of people on X or whatever griping about Jim Knowles early on in the game. And my only question to you is like, if you don't think Jim Knowles has improved this defense, I don't know what to tell you at this point, because look, guys, can you imagine Kerry Combs coaching this defense against that team? It'd be 42-41 or something along those lines. I hate hypotheticals. I do, but I think Kerry Combs gave me enough evidence to suggest that a really prolific passing team, even from the Conference USA type of gang of five or gang of whatever. I don't know what you call them anymore. The non P5 program, they even give us fits, and I don't know. I mean, how do you complain about Jim Knowles right now? I mean, I'm not saying he's proven himself 100%. We still got to see it against Penn State, Michigan, Notre Dame. I get all that. I get all of it. I hear that all the time. But this is a game where we all said, everybody agreed that our team would be tested the most going as far as offensive teams go so far in the season. And you cannot tell me they did not pass. Not just pass, but get an A+. That was a phenomenal performance by the defense. Phenomenal performance. 8 tackles for loss, 6 pass breakups, 4 turnovers, 2 sacks. I mean, they got a lot of and JTT and Jack Sawyer got a ton of QB hurries and pressures combined. They didn't get home. There's a lot of quick passing with that team. They averaged, I think, 5 yards per completion. I'm just saying, they put a lot of pressure on the quarterback. We got home a couple times. I think Mitchell Melton was a guy we need to talk about. Needs to play a little bit more. And the secondary has looked easily the best it has since 2019. Easily. Denzel Burke is a man possessed. It's just funny. He's reverting back to freshman form. No, he's better than when he was a freshman. Make no mistake. In fact, you could argue right now is where we thought he would be last year, but he's actually playing like a first round draft pick. Like he's bringing BIA back to Ohio State. Hancock has had a few blips. Igbinosun has had I keep saying Igbinosun. Igbinosun has had a few blips, but overall they're playing pretty well. Hancock causing the fumble. I mean, I'm just, and by the way, Coach Eliano, what have you done to Josh Proctor? He's playing excellent. It got to point to me where when, in Proctor's career, what I'd say, oh, he's a starting safety. Why? By default, should he be out there? Now I'm thinking, no, I want the guy out there now. I hope he's healthy. Looks like he's making himself some money in this season. I'm glad to see it. He's been here since 2018, I think. He's been here a while. Excited for him. Playing really, really good football right now. And Ransom is playing pretty well. Jihad Carter's getting in there, getting in the mix a little bit. I don't think we saw Sonny Styles too much in this game because we knew it wouldn't be too much running, and their run game is not really something we were too worried about. Somebody commented to me on X that, weren't you worried about the first down run always getting about 4 or 5 yards? I don't think that's what they were focused on. I think they knew that this team, the tendency was second and third down, they throw the ball. Especially if we got up on them. I don't think they were too worried about the run game, the Hilltopper run game. Just didn't seem like we were focused on stopping it. But defense played absolutely excellent this game. From top to bottom, Tommy Eichenberg, Steel Chambers led in tackles, with 10 and 9 respectively. Again, the only thing you could really say is we'd like to see Sawyer and JTT go off and get some sacks, but they did play their best game of the season so far. So maybe it's progressing that way. We'll see going forward, but right now, I mean, the secondary, even last year, was a little scary at times, and right now I can say the secondary looks pretty darn good. I can guarantee you, against Notre Dame, we're going to see a lot more Sonny Styles. That game just has Sonny Styles' name written all over it. We're going to see Proctor, Ransom, and Styles in that game a lot. So I'm encouraged. I can't say enough how encouraged I am by how the defense played. Just absolutely 99% past that test. Got 2 touchdowns in this game. Tyleik Williams recovering a fumble in the end zone. Jermaine Matthews, I know it was mop up. Jermaine Matthews showing he's a future star potentially at corner. Pick 6, just a blazer, just of a runner, and really played that really well. Really excited about what this team shows. Even CJ Hicks got in on a few hits, showed a little bit more, showed a little bit more improvement. I mean, the defensive line, the interior defensive line is still doing their thing. There's just not one aspect of defense I'm looking at going, wow, that's a huge problem. I'm looking at the whole defense as a whole. It's like, man, this might be a significant strength this year. Again, first huge test against Notre Dame. We'll talk about that going forward this week. Guys, I appreciate you, man. Enjoy the win. Just enjoy it. It was a fun game to watch as a Buckeye fan. We did what we were supposed to do and beat the tar out of an inferior team. But I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you didn't look for a reason to be negative about it. I hope you're not discounting it, because honest to God, Buckeye football is here one day and then it's gone the next day. Just enjoy it, especially when these games come around, because in today's landscape of college football, they don't come around as often as they used to. It's harder and harder and harder to beat the tar out of teams. Appreciate you guys as always. Subscribe to the channel if you like what you see. Like the video if you like what you see. Share it with a friend if you can. Comment below what you think about the game, what you saw, what you think you saw. Whether I'm wrong, maybe we think I'm wrong on something. Please tell me. Let me know. We read all the comments, guys. As always, goodbye. God bless. And, of course, go Bucks.